Welcome back to another Explainer. Today, we're diving into something we all experience but rarely think deeply about, a highly nuanced physiological feedback loop. Basically, we're talking about the complex biological language of your own body. You know, at the core of intuitive eating, it's not just some rigid list of dietary rules. Instead, it's this really profound practice of somatic awareness. It's about tuning in, paying acute attention, and understanding exactly how your biological baseline shifts and, well, communicates its needs to you throughout the day.
So, let me ask you this. Do you actually know how to interpret the signals your autonomic nervous system is sending you? Like, more importantly, do you know how to listen when your body communicates its immediate biological needs? I mean, in our hyper-connected modern environments, chronic stress and constant external distractions kind of sever our connection to our most basic physical baselines. We simply tune out the physiological data. Today, we're going to reconnect that circuit. We are going to decode these underlying biological signals together, step by step.
Section 1. The Body's Secret Messages.
Section 2. Decoding your hunger cues.
Okay, let's dive right into this. The entire intuitive eating cycle starts with understanding exactly where hunger comes from. Now, what's really interesting here is that true hunger isn't just psychological boredom or a passing craving. Oh no, it is a profound physiological demand for caloric energy. When you experience real biological hunger, your stomach actually produces a hormone called ghrelin. That hormone travels straight up the vagus nerve to your brain to say, hey, we are depleted. And this shows up physically as undeniable gastric contractions, a noticeable drop in energy, or even that sudden onset of cognitive fog. Those physical signs, that's your body clearly and urgently communicating a biological imperative. Think about it like a high-performance vehicle. When a car's gas tank gets critically low, a relatively simple, mechanical, low-fuel dashboard light comes on to alert the driver, right? Well, your human body serves these exact same function just through incredibly complex endocrinological shifts. That sharp drop in physical energy and the literal contraction of your stomach muscles, that is literally your body's biological low-fuel light coming on. It's signaling a systemic, immediate need for macronutrients. The primary difference is we often stubbornly ignore our own internal dashboard.
Section 3. The Simple Hunger Scale.
But honestly, how low is too low? Well, we can actually measure this metabolic demand using a super effective clinical tool known as the hunger scale. This helps us objectively quantify our physiological state. So, let's break down the data here. Level 1 represents a severe caloric deficit. At this point, you are essentially running on fumes, marked by high irritability, a massive spike in cortisol, and acute physical discomfort. You're grumpy, basically. Moving up to level 3, we see clear, actionable hunger. Your body is ready to eat, but you haven't hit that state of physiological panic yet. And then there's level 5, which is complete homeostasis. You're in a perfectly neutral state, neither biologically hungry nor satiated. The absolute core strategy of intuitive eating is to recognize and respond to that low fuel light at exactly a level 3. We want to initiate eating at this stage, rather than ignoring the signals until we plummet to a level 1 and experience those severe mood swings and energy crashes from acute hypoglycemia. So, take just a second to check in with your own somatic state. Right now, where do you sit on this scale?
Section 4. Your body says enough.
Now, recognizing the necessity for fuel is really only half the equation. The next absolutely crucial phase is satiation, or satiety. This is your body's biological way of signaling that your current energy requirements have been thoroughly met, basically saying, thanks, I have enough fuel now. When you reach this stage of satiation, your nervous system begins a profound shift. It moves from a sympathetic drive, seeking out food and energy, straight into parasympathetic rest and digestion. Those gastric contractions completely cease, your blood sugar stabilizes, and there is a crystal clear physiological cue generated that it's time to conclude the meal.
And this brilliantly illustrates the clear dichotomy between the two states. When we compare them side by side, the physical contrast is incredibly sharp. On one end of the spectrum, hunger presents as lethargy, physical depletion, and undeniable irritability. On the totally opposite end, optimal fullness delivers autonomic comfort, steady cognitive focus, and just a general sense of being functionally fueled. They are absolute physiological opposites. And you know what? Our nervous system is remarkably adept at indicating exactly which side of the biological spectrum we're currently occupying, provided we're actually paying attention.
Let's consider a really practical behavioral case study from the source material regarding an individual named Daniel. So Daniel engaged with a highly palatable meal, in this instance pizza. Because the food was extremely rewarding to his brain's dopamine pathways, he ate rapidly. He completely ignored his body's internal satiety cues, and as a direct result, he pushed far past satiation and experienced severe gastric distress. It physically hurt. But the next time he encountered the exact same meal, he utilized a drastically different behavioral approach. He slowed his consumption rate, and he stopped the very moment his autonomic nervous system signaled comfortable fullness. The result? Zero gastric discomfort and sustained metabolic energy. So the crucial point here is that we absolutely must actively stop at the point of optimal satiation, long before we induce physical pain. Bypassing those satiety cues consistently just leads to metabolic overload and physical distress.
Section 5. The Simple Fullness Scale.
Let's see how this builds, because just as we measure hunger, we can mathematically track our satiety too. Let's look at the fullness scale. Level 5 is that baseline homeostasis we established earlier, a purely neutral biological state. Level 7 represents optimal satiation. You feel physically sustained without feeling weighed down. Hitting level 7 is the primary behavioral target. It is the precise, perfect moment to put the fork down and conclude the meal. Why? Because the entire objective is to proactively prevent level 10. Level 10 is acute gastric distension. You've significantly overfilled your biological capacity, which leads to lethargy, acid reflux, and genuine physical discomfort. But let's be real. Recognizing a level 7 in today's highly distracted world where we're constantly eating while working, driving, or scrolling through our phones, it is incredibly difficult. It demands intense, intentional focus.
Section 6. Your Body Listening Mission. To hear your body's messages, it helps to eat slowly. No rushing. The science behind this foundational principle is absolutely vital for mastering intuitive eating. Get this, it physically takes roughly 20 minutes for satiety hormones, primarily leptin and cholecystokinin, to be released from your digestive tract, travel all the way up through your bloodstream, and bind to receptors in your hypothalamus just to signal that you have consumed enough calories. If you eat at an accelerated, rushed pace, your brain literally does not have the biological time required to process those internal chemical cues. You will sail right past level 7 and hit a painful level 10 before your brain even registers that the meal has fully happened. So slowing down isn't just some quaint, relaxing idea, it is a strict physiological necessity for accurate somatic signaling.
So how do we practically enforce this deceleration? Well, try these 3 advanced somatic grounding techniques to physically re-engage with your meals. Number 1, calibrate your portion sizes. Taking smaller, more manageable portions prevents that rapid influx of calories that totally bypasses our sensory checks. Number 2, masticate thoroughly, or, chew your food completely. Chewing your food well not only significantly aids in enzymatic digestion, but it dramatically slows your overall consumption rate. And number 3, engage in sensory tracking. Really evaluate the texture, the temperature, and the complex flavor profile of what you're actually eating. By forcing your brain to deliberately process this detailed sensory data, you inherently force your sympathetic nervous system to decelerate. This builds a calm, highly mindful eating pace that turns you into a true, attuned practitioner of your own biology.
And that brings us to the culmination of our analysis on intuitive eating signals. I want to leave you with one final provocative thought. Are you ready to stop letting external distractions and hyperpalatable environments dictate your internal biology? Seriously, at your next meal, I challenge you to tune out the pervasive noise of modern life and tune directly into your physiological baseline. Watch out for that biological low-fuel light, purposefully aim for that optimal satiation at level 7, and deeply respect the complex endocrinological language your body uses every single day. Because ultimately, mastering your plate doesn't start with a new restrictive diet. It starts with mastering your attention. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep applying these somatic practices, and I will see you next time.